Welcome, everybody, to day 4 of Marriage Makeover. I'm so happy to be here. I hope everyone is having a great day wherever you are. I am here on behalf of Life Coach University with our mission to coach millions more. And what I'm doing is the 365 PIF Talks. PIF stands for Pay It Forward. So we ask as you come and attend these talks and all of the amazing things that Life Coach University has to offer, we just ask you to pay it forward in the world in whatever way that you see fit. So, and I think it's fun to think about that. How can I pay it forward? How can I make the world a little bit brighter, a little bit better? It's a fun thing to think about. Okay. Oh, trying to rename myself. Here we go. Give me just a second here. Get myself all together. Let me get my notes. Okay. So today, being day 4, we are going to talk about being an intentional partner. And I love this topic. Your marriage is not just going to be amazing. You're not going to just have this amazing marriage by default, right? If you leave your marriage up to fate or it's destiny or whatever you want to call it, I don't really think that's the best plan of action personally. Okay. I think that there's so much power in showing up in a marriage with intentionality. So if you want to make your marriage whatever it is that you want to make it, more power to you. That AKA is called an intentionality, right? Like you are going to have to be intentional about what it is that you want to create. Amazing marriages aren't just born, they don't just happen overnight. And I don't care how amazing the two individuals are, right? Marriage requires effort and it takes consistent effort over a lifetime. But don't let that be discouraging. Today, I just want to encourage you and give you some ideas on how you can bring more intention into your marriage and the benefits of doing that. Okay, so to start off, I want to introduce you to an idea called want matches. So, what a want match is something that you and your partner both want. Very simple. Okay, the name says it all. So before I jump into want matches, thinking of the other topics we've talked about so far, we've talked about dreaming, creating, and thinking about the kind of marriage you actually want to have. And then I taught you how to actually create that, right? So this goes right along those lines. Think about what you do want to be intentional about. What is it that you want to bring to the table? What is it that you want to bring into your marriage? And spend some time thinking about that. But then another really amazing thing that you can do is the want match. So I think it's fun to make a date night out of this. So you can invite your spouse and be like, okay, and you can set up some other things. Like you could go to a restaurant and do this, or you could do a cute at-home date, whatever. It doesn't matter. Do what makes you happy. But find out what your want matches are. Basically, what are things that both of you want? Okay. So do we both want a family? Do we want a shared bank account? What kind of money do we want in that account? What kind of house? Or maybe it's feelings like, okay, I want to feel heard and connected, and I want to feel vulnerable and passionate, whatever. Oh, me too. Right. Like maybe it's a feeling, or maybe it is tangible things for our relationship. Like every week I want to go on a date, or throughout the week when it's busy and crazy, I want to have intentional time where we are just chatting, where we're talking about what's going on. I want to have a very amazing sex life. I want to be connected and intimate, right? So think about both of the things that you want, and don't just think about it, but literally create dialogue around this, like create conversation and figure out what are the things that both of you want in your marriage. Doing this just helps you to see like, oh, we do want a lot of the same things, and that can be empowering. But then it also gives you this opportunity to figure out, okay, like how are we going to start making this happen? Now, I can already hear some of you saying like, what if we don't have any? And I promise you, you at least have one thing that you both want, or you wouldn't be married. Okay. you both wanted each other at some point. But I really do believe with all my heart that there is at least one want match in every relationship. Okay. So find what that is. And even if it's one, or even if there's only a few things, that's okay. Start with what you have. Just become aware of the things that you both want. And I think as you start this exercise, more things come out and you're like, oh, this is amazing. For example, my spouse and myself, we are pretty different on paper. Like we're polar opposite in a lot of things. And so sometimes I think that I'm just like, oh, like this is just challenging because we're so different. But then when I actually sit and I think about it, or I have a conversation with my husband, or we do things, I'm like, oh, no, like we want a lot of the same things. Maybe what we like or how we do things is different, but when I pay attention to it, there are so many things that we both want. So create a conversation, create an environment where that can be brought to life. Notice what it is that both of you want. And once you have that, the next step, obviously, is a conversation around, okay, let's pick one thing that we want to work on and let's start figuring out how to create that. Does that make sense? Doing this brings a huge element of intention into your marriage, which I am all about. If you are intentional in your marriage, you are way more likely to have an enjoyable marriage, or to have the marriage that you want, because intention requires effort. And anything you put effort into, you are bound to see results. It's inevitable. Okay. Now, the second thing I want to talk to you about is this. What if you want something that your spouse just doesn't? Okay. What if it feels really important to you to have time to connect and unwind together, and your spouse is just like, I'd rather just like watch TV and chill to unwind, right? That's okay. You don't have to make that mean that you're not a good partnership and this is never going to work out and he doesn't understand you and he doesn't care. No, you don't need to go down that path at all. What I want you to know is just because they don't want some of the same things that you want doesn't mean you can't have those things. It could mean a variety of things. It could mean that maybe you are going to need to compromise some things. Maybe it just means you're going to have more communication around something to figure it out. But it doesn't mean that that's something you just have to scratch off your list. And another thing that it may mean is you're just going to have to figure out how to do that for yourself, how to feel that need for yourself, and recognize that there's lots of options. There's lots of ways to get it, but it just might be different from the way you originally thought. And it may be different from the original, just, well, I wanted this from my spouse. Okay. But just know, if you want something that your spouse doesn't mean you can't have it. Of course you can. There's always a way. And just thinking about that gives you this opportunity to be in touch with yourself and to think about, okay, what is it that I want? Why do I want that thing? If my spouse doesn't want that same thing, why does it feel important to me to get that thing? And how can I go about doing that? I think that's a great way to just check in with yourself and improve the relationship you have with yourself. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about in being an intentional partner is thinking about what your partner would want. I just like love introducing this element in. Okay. Think about your partner. Think about something they love. Maybe it's chocolate, or maybe it is intentional time. Maybe they just love hanging out with you and having your undivided attention. Maybe they love having a chill night where they can just watch TV or do something and not have to worry about other things. Whatever it is, think about something that your spouse loves or something that they would want, and think about, how can I make that happen for them? Okay. Now, disclaimer, I want you to remember that you are not in charge of your spouse's happiness. That's not your job. It's not your job to make your spouse feel happy and wonderful and amazing and great. And you can't ever force them to feel happy and great and loved, even though sometimes we really want them to. But you totally care. I believe that you care about how your spouse feels. You care about what kind of experience they are having in their life. Just remember that you aren't responsible for that experience. But knowing that, I want you still to think about, but how could I just give them things that they want? Or how could I just show up for them in a way that would allow me to express love? Now, whether they receive that love or whether they think, oh, that was so amazing, that part's not up to you. But I love to think about what's something just extra that I could do for my spouse because I want to, because that's the kind of spouse I want to be. And me doing that thing makes me feel love, and that feels amazing for me. Right. For example, this is so funny. This is just coming to my brain. My spouse loves corn nuts, those horrible, like basically, I feel like you're buying a package of rocks. Corn nuts equals rocks in my mind. But he loves ranch flavored corn nuts. And when we go on a road trip, he wants ranch flavored corn nuts. Sometimes I'm so nice and I buy those. And other times I'm just like, dude, I cannot with you and those rocks that you're chewing on and the smell. Like, it's a no for me. But I was at a store recently and I saw a package of ranch corn nuts. And so I just got them off the shelf. And then I came home and I did something funny. I said, I don't even remember what I said, but basically I gave my spouse this bag of ranch corn nuts, that was 98 cents. And he was just like so excited about it. Okay. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about little extra things that, like, for me, it was absolutely no big deal. It was 98 cents. And I knew I wasn't going to be going on a road trip, so I didn't have to hear him munch them. I was actually going out of town. So it actually worked really, really beautifully for me. But that's what I'm talking about. What's something just extra, and maybe extra isn't the word that works for you. Maybe I don't want this to feel like something more on your list that you have to do. But I love channeling this creative part of me that's like, hey, what's something just special? What's something tiny and little and, insignificant that I could do to just show my spouse, like, hey, I see you and I love you and I think you're the best ever. Because doing that allows you to feel so good. And here's the thing, spoiler alert, love has to be the driver here. Okay. I'm not buying ranch corn nuts for my husband because I want him to think that I'm just so kind. No. I literally, like, love drove me to buy those corn nuts, especially corn nuts, because I hate them and I think they're the worst. But in being an intentional partner, it's really amazing to think about your partner. What do they like? Where are they at? What are they going through? Right? Same thing. A couple weeks ago, my spouse was just having a really hard time. He's going through a PhD program and it's rigorous. He stays up wicked late every night studying and reading articles. Like, it is so much work. And a few weeks ago, that was my thought too. Like, what can I do to just show him a little extra love? What can I do for my husband to just show him that I'm proud of him and I think he's amazing and I believe in him? And it's just little. And I think that's such a beautiful question to ask yourself, but let love be the driver, right? You are not doing this to get something back. No, no. You are doing this because it's the kind of partner you want to be, and you're doing it out of love. So anytime you do something from a place of love, that's going to feel amazing for you. And we hope that that person that is the recipient of our kindness, or whatever you want to call it, will feel that love. They may not, but you will. Do you see that? So I think being intentional is an amazing thing because it allows you to feel love, or it allows you to feel joy, or whatever emotion that it creates for you. So I know I've already explained this, but I want you to remember this. You are being an intentional partner because you want to be. And listen, day 4 is not about learning how can our spouse be more intentional. Maybe you already feel like you are really intentional, like you try and you make a lot of effort and your spouse just doesn't. Maybe you feel like you are just getting the short end of the stick and it's not fair, right? If you feel that way, I want you to recognize and just tell you that you're right. It's not fair. A lot of the times it's not fair. I really do hope and wish and desire for everyone that they can have a partner that loves them and sees them and hears them and values them and is good. But that might not be the case for every single person. But that doesn't mean that you still don't want to be an intentional partner to provide yourself with an experience where you're putting yourself in a place where love is available to feel and to give and to share. The more love you feel and the more love you share, the more it comes back to you. Okay. So even if you feel like you are being the intentional partner and your partner isn't intentional, if you're in that kind of space, I want you to stop and just ask yourself, so why? Why am I doing this? If you are being intentional to try to get something back from your spouse, maybe change your reasons. Maybe just decide that you are being intentional for yourself because it's just the kind of person that you want to be. And it's you being intentional is going to allow you to feel the kind of emotion that you want to feel. And always, I tell my clients this always, you just get to decide. No one is forcing you to stay in this relationship. This is not one of those things that you have to do. At some point, you chose to be here. So you can ask yourself that when you're in this space and you're struggling. Why am I choosing to be in this relationship? Because you don't have to be there. And reminding yourself why you are there and why you want to is really powerful. I always do that with myself. Like, I want to be here. And I really do believe this. And I say this, I don't do anything I don't want to do because I know that I don't have to do anything. I could lay in my bed all day, every day, and just exist if I wanted to. There's no rules. There's consequences to our choices, right? But I don't do anything I don't want to do. So to wrap this up, being an intentional partner will just require a little effort from you in thinking about, okay, like, what do I want to bring to the table? Who do I want to be? But there is this energy you can create that is so fun and it goes along with dreaming. Like, what kind of partner do I want to be? And don't do that thing where you're like, well, this is the kind of partner I have. And if he was different or if she was better in some way, then I could act that way. No. We love our partner. He or she is the best in the world. We don't know how we landed them, but they are the best. So who do I want to be? How do I want to act? What kind of experience do I want to create? And then I always will tell you this. Just pick one thing. Don't allow yourself to feel overwhelmed. Your brain's going to be like, well, that's not realistic. You can't do that. You don't have time for that. You don't have the money for that. He's not going to appreciate it anyways. No. You just talk back to your brain. Brain, listen. This is the kind of person I want to be for me because it's going to feel amazing for me. And then I believe that there's going to be a ripple effect and all kinds of people are going to benefit from my action. But let's go. Let's just do this one thing. Bringing intentionality into your marriage can be such a game changer. You never want your marriage to be on autopilot. Okay. And you know what? If it has been on autopilot, and I believe that there are times and seasons where we are more intentional and we feel like we have more energy or just, they say in Spanish, like ganas, like you just feel like you have more to give at certain times than others. Totally get that. And that is okay. But just ask yourself, really, what is it that I can give right now? What intention can I bring? And just believe that you making an effort, no matter how big, no matter how small, is going to make a difference. Okay. I'm going to pop into the Q&A. We have some questions here. Okay. We did have a lot of things we both wanted when we first met, but then we seemed to argue a lot about how to get them. So now I no longer want those things anymore because of the negative baggage around it. Okay. So I think the question here for you is, are you just, there's different when we seem to argue a lot. Oh, about how to get them. Yeah, like you're not on the same page about how to get those same things. So you want to just question yourself about that. Okay. Like, why am I not agreeing with his way? Just kind of take a good internal look at this because right now you present it as it's just very factual. It's like, yeah, when we first got together, we had lots of things that we wanted, but then we argued a lot because we didn't agree on the execution of how to get those things. So now you're letting that be the thing stopping you from getting what you want. And you're also letting it be the thing that's stopping you from having continued conversation. But I read it and it's like, well, of course, you are two different people with different opinions, different ideas, different upbringings. It's not like you're going to have this conversation. You're going to be like, yeah, and this is the way to do it. Anytime you're in a partnership, it's like you have different ideas and you're like, no, like that's crazy. I think we should do it this way, right? And we always think that our way of doing something is the right way or is the best way. So is there any wiggle room? Could you be wrong about it? Could you be willing to hear your spouse out on it? What are you willing to like negotiate on and what are you willing to not negotiate on? And you get to decide that part. But I would not believe that because you don't agree on the way to get it, that it's just done for. What if you were just open to having this conversation where you know there's going to be pushback from each other, but ultimately you believe that of course we can get what we want, just it might be in a different way than you expect. Could you be okay with that? Okay, someone else says, I really want family breakfast together, but my spouse suffers from sleep problems, so this rarely happens. I seriously want this in my partner, but I know that it won't happen with him. This is a big missing on my want match. I can't imagine this being the reason I leave, but I really do want a different spouse who wakes up and wants to have breakfast with me. So should I be putting this on my want match? Okay, here's what I want you to ask yourself. Why, if so, let's just say that your partner was a partner that did want to have breakfast with you every morning and he or she was there every morning with you for breakfast. What would that allow you to feel? Okay. We're always chasing a feeling. So it's not necessarily that you want your spouse, your partner there with you for breakfast. You want how you think it would make you feel if your partner was there having breakfast with you. Okay. So identify that feeling. What is the feeling that you're seeking out, that you're really wanting? And just knowing what the feeling is might surprise you. That will be helpful. And then you can ask yourself, okay, so how can I get that feeling? You can also ask yourself, why? Why is feeling that way so important to me? And then just telling yourself, let's access some creativity because right now we feel like a victim. We're just like, dang, I have this want match of breakfast, but it's not a want match for my partner. It's a no for them. So what do I do? Like you feel really stuck, but you can just ask yourself, what's the feeling? What is it that I'm really after? And then just knowing, okay, you know what? For my spouse, that's just not a thing that they want. Do you know what you can do? You can grieve. Do you remember when we talked about that? I think on day 2 or 3. Grieve. Your partner doesn't want to have breakfast with you. You can just let that feel sad. Like don't try to chase it away. Feel the emotion of that and then just decide, but you know what? What else is available to me? Is there a friend or like is there anyone else in your life that is dying for a breakfast invitation for you? Or can we bring breakfast to spouse? Right? Can we do breakfast in bed every day? Just allow yourself to have some creativity around this with the driving belief being there's definitely a way to get what I want here. And it may not be the way that I think. It may not actually look like the way I'm thinking I want it to look. What if it's possible that it could be even better? Do you see that? Like, let's just loosen the grip on this, the lid on the jar that is so tight. Let's just loosen it up a little bit by being willing to explore what all this is. What else is this really about for us? Does that make sense? Okay, we have another friend that says, I came to my marriage with intention to be positive and hopeful, right? My partner criticizes me for being too optimistic and airy-fairy. We argue about this a lot. Should I change? Should this be a part of my intention so that we can get along better? I want you to ask yourself, do you want to change? Do you not want to be positive and hopeful and optimistic? Now, I'm going to take some liberties here and I'm going to assume, so I could be totally wrong. Let me know if I am. But I'm going to assume that that's a part of you don't want to give up. But there's probably a part of you that is thinking it's wrong because that's the message that your partner is sending to you. Like, hey, like you are too positive, you are too airy-fairy, and we argue about this. But what if it's okay? What if you just remain airy-fairy, optimistic, positive, and hopeful? What if you just stay that way and you just allow him to be annoyed by it? Maybe he's just jealous. Maybe, who knows? But what if you just kept that part of you because that's who you want to be and that's who you love being? And what if it was just okay for your partner to be annoyed by it? Does that make sense? And when you ask, should this be part of my intention that we get along better? I can't answer that for you, friend. You just get to decide, you know what? If this is just the kind of person I want to be, and I've noticed it kind of bugs my spouse, what if it's okay for them to feel bugged? Do you ever feel bugged sometimes? Sometimes we think if we can change the way that we are so that they can feel better, that will benefit everyone. But then you are not going to enjoy who you are. And then you're not being the real true version of yourself for your spouse either, right? So instead, what if you were just okay with the uncomfortableness of him not really agreeing with how you are? What if that's just okay? Okay, someone asks, do you coach couples or mentor couples in going through this want match exercise? We try to talk about what we want and it always ends up in a big argument. So right now I just coach mostly women. I just coach women on their marriages. I don't actually work with couples, but I'm happy to give you more information and talk to you about working together in that way. If you want to reach out to me at heatherflakecoaching.com, I would love to help you. But generally, I don't work with couples. It's usually just like a little bit more one-sided. Okay, our friend that we are talking about breakfast says, I did bring him breakfast in bed. He stayed sleeping. I ended up eating I'm going to slaughter this beautiful thing. I ended up eating the pain au chocolat and drinking my coffee while crying. I promised myself in that moment to never bring him breakfast again. It was a really sad moment for me. Yeah. Okay. So I want you to give yourself some mad props for trying something new and for trying something different, right? You're like, okay, I did that thing. I brought him breakfast in bed and he continued to sleep. So the question is, what are you making it mean? You're saying it was such a sad moment for you, but why? I promise you it's because you're attaching meaning to like, okay, I made this beautiful breakfast and I brought it to him in bed and he remained sleeping. What are you making it mean that he stayed sleeping? That's what's hurting you. And then you promise to yourself, like, I'm never doing that again. And you make that promise to yourself because you never want to feel how you felt that day, right? Instead, we can kind of de-dramify this and just think about the facts. It's like, okay, the fact or the want is I want to have breakfast with my partner. And the other fact is he sleeps till this time. So breakfast together isn't really happening. I tried this. I tried taking him breakfast in bed, but he's asleep, right? Like he's sleeping during your breakfast time. So of course he stayed sleeping while you brought him breakfast in bed because that's when he sleeps. But you're making it mean something painful, which totally makes sense. It's okay. But try to notice what you are making it mean and then just ask yourself, okay, is this really true? What else is true? What else is available to me? And I'm telling you again, I think it'd be really beneficial for you to determine and decide what is it that I'm after? What is it that I'm wanting to feel? I'm wanting to feel connected. I'm wanting to feel seen. I'm wanting to feel in love. I'm wanting to feel romantic, whatever it is. And then ask yourself, so maybe how else can I get that? And maybe it's worth having a conversation. And maybe also it's just worth accepting, you know what? Me wanting to have breakfast with my partner every day in the way that I wanted to have it just isn't happening in that way, and allow yourself to grieve and to be sad about that, and then just expect your partner to be who they are. I want breakfast every day with my partner, but he doesn't. So how can I be really kind and curious and delicate with myself around this subject? Does that make sense? Because you can't change your partner. You can't turn him into someone or her into someone that all of a sudden shows up to morning breakfast with a smile and is so excited to eat with you. And I would tell you too, it has nothing to do with you. You're probably making it mean something so personal and painful, but it doesn't have anything to do with you. Maybe it's as simple as that's just when your partner prefers to sleep. So you don't have to keep making it mean a lot of painful things for yourself. All right. Thank you so much for bringing your comments and your real life experiences. I think that's so valuable. So if you have anything else, be sure and pop it in the Q&A while we're wrapping up here. But just in a nutshell, just think about you and the kind of partner that you want to be. And friend, like breakfast in bed friend, maybe it's thinking about, about your intentions around this. Like, okay, my intention in bringing breakfast to my spouse while they're in bed, I think it's probably fueled by a lot of kindness and goodness. But underneath it, it's like you're just wanting to do that so that you can feel a certain way. And if breakfast in bed like that isn't working out, how else can you receive that feeling? Because your feelings come from your thoughts, not from breakfast. It comes from your thoughts every time. So you can just take some time to explore that. And with all of this, my friends, this work is all about getting in touch with yourself and recognizing the relationship that you have with yourself and being secure in who you are so that you can bring a whole, confident, lovely self into this marriage. And if you're not there yet, and none of us are perfect, right? We all have things that we're always going to struggle with no matter how much work we do. And that's okay. It's not the point to show up in marriage as this beautiful, confident, amazing, perfect person, right? Doesn't exist. But I'm just saying, when you love you and you see you and you can understand you, you are going to show up in your relationship in a whole new way, in a whole new light. And just think about intentions in marriage as something you can own. Like, don't try to think so much about, well, his intentions are this and they should be this. No, and even in want matches, let's just focus on the things that we do have in common, the things that we do both want. And even if the way in which we want to get those things is different, that's okay. Of course, it's different. Can we use that as an opportunity to talk and to better understand each other and to be more creative and to learn how to compromise? Of course, you can. All you have is options. All you have is so many different ways to accomplish what you are after. But the belief has to be the driving thing, the belief that, of course, this can happen. Of course, I can be an intentional partner that is driven by love, that can create a marriage that I love and that I'm proud of, and that I just love me and I'm proud of me. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm just going to pop back in here and make sure we don't. Okay, there's no more questions. So I just want to thank everyone so much for showing up today and bringing your questions, bringing your experiences, your struggles. It's so valuable. Thank you so much for coming. Let's see, day 5. Today was day 4. Yeah. Day 5, we are going to be talking more about communication. So come back, join me, and we will do that next time we meet. All right, my beautiful friends, have a gorgeous rest of your day. And thanks so much for joining me. We'll see you soon.